brothers. We're happy and we're singing and we're colored. Give me a high five.
All right, cut and print. Beautiful, guys. Dynamite. That is...
Welcome to 3 for the Founders, where brotherhood meets breakdown. We've been having these conversations for years, and now you are invited to join us. We'll say the things you are afraid to say and ask the questions you want to ask. 3 brothers, all truth, no filters. Let's go.
So we decided to start out with the miseducation of the Anglo.
Oh.
And our conversation today is going to focus on the definitions of racism and white supremacy. The conversation that we've been having and you want to have is, what does it actually mean? How did we actually get here? What are the roots of white supremacy? What is the way that racism shows up every day? And how can you be a better person, be a better ally, be a better contributor to the life that we decided to live on this earth? And so we've got a few questions for each other because we haven't had these conversations. I mean, recently we had these conversations a lot, but we're going to ask some questions that you want to ask, but you might be afraid to. We're going to make some statements that you want to make, but you might be afraid to. Because, you know, we said what we said.
There it
What
is.
can I tell you?
Let's get this party started.
Ooh, I think it's so important to let everybody know how we know each other and why we're having the conversation that everyone wishes they could have in the car ride home. And the reason why we frame it up that way is because the most honest conversations we have are usually in a car on the way home from something. You got your partner next to you and you're like, can you believe what she said? I'm like, I can't believe she said that. Can you believe how bad that dip was? That was nasty. Like, you have that conversation. So can we talk about how we know each other? We alluded to it in our introductions. LeBron, how do we know each other?
Yes. So we all went to UCLA at the same time. I had the honor and privilege of pledging Phi Beta Sigma before John and Antonio. And then I had the distinct honor of pledging them into the fraternity. And through that fraternal bond, sharing that time at UCLA, what you learn is the people you have the most in common with, you trust the most, and you're able to be your true, authentic self. And so we have the privilege of having 3 distinct views and experiences in this world, but we have the love, brotherhood, and friendship to where we feel safe enough to share our true thoughts and feelings with one another. And that's the basis of this podcast and why I'm so excited to be here.
I love it. I love it. I said that both of you represent a lot of my own personal development when it comes to how I see racism and how I see my role that I'm playing as a white man in America. And there have been multiple little evolutionary steps that are not really necessarily the result of any of you standing on a soapbox and preaching. It's all been natural and organic because, as you say, LeBron, the trust that I have for you all, I can be fully myself around you two. And what that means is I can stumble in front of you and be my stumbling self, good and bad. And both of you have been there for moments when I have realized certain things about how race is a bigger factor than I even knew, and sometimes even a mundane situation or a mundane statement. And because of that relationship, because of that trust and that bond we have, not just because we pledge the same fraternity, but because of the experiences we went through the pledging and then through, you know, becoming older men with that context. It's you two have influenced me significantly. And why are you laughing, Antonio? Is it because we're older men who talk about things that end with ologists?
Right, right.
I prefer
Everything ends with
mature,
ologists.
Yes.
You prefer mature? Okay. That feels like a category that I'm not clicking on.
No, I earned every one of these grades, man. Every one of them. Take none of them away from me.
This seniority right here. You see this?
Seniority.
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 We pledge a fraternity. Do we need to pledge a seniority or are we already in it?
I'm done. I think we're in it.
It's
Okay.
over. It's over. You know, friends are the family that you choose. Frat is not necessarily the family that you choose. And yet, in the combination of conversation that we've all had, um, there are people that I would die for and there are people that I would kill for. And I would say that the two people on this screen right now are among those. There is no one I would trust with my life, my family, um, even my wife, uh, than these two gentlemen, you know. And there are a few others. I see you, King David.
Shout out.
Saying
Shout out. Um, but the ability to speak frankly, the ability to express the emotional reality or the cultural challenges that we all have is important. And so when we invite you into this conversation, understand that um, there's not an argument being had, but a discussion and an understanding being reached. And that is why we are here. It is why we felt, I won't say empowered, I will say um, that this might be helpful for other people. Because I guarantee you, the people on both sides of me, at least on my screen,
Yes.
are going to say something that you wish you had said or you can't believe got said out loud.
Right.
And yet, it will be, and we will walk through it together.
yes, indeed.
Yeah. Now, one other aspect I want to include that I forgot to mention. So, not only do we share, having gone to the same university, not only do we share the same fraternity, but what I think is so unique about our conversation is because we're experts on the other. John, being a white man, pledging a black fraternity, has had experiences and access to the black experience and black life that most white people only dream of. And yet, John is still who he is. He's not trying to pretend that he's black. He's not trying to perpetrate. He is who he is authentically and is a member of a black fraternity. So he has an up close and personal experience with the black community. On the flip side, Antonio and I are experts on white culture. We grew up in white culture. We went to the whitest of schools. We both graduated from Ivy League colleges. So our existence is based on having a PhD in white tea, which is what we both possess. So we can share things from a lens, knowing what happens behind those velvet ropes, behind those gates in those private schools and private institutions. So we've been up close and personal, so we can share that perspective as well. So some may people say, you know what, I think those people are racist. I said, well, you know what, I've been in there. And yes, they are racist. But you just think they are. I was up in the room when it went down. So our unique perspectives is what I really value, and I think people are really going to enjoy.
I would like to submit to my assistant, who doesn't exist, but if you were, I'd like you to change my resume. LeBron says I'm an expert in black. So from this point forward, anything I say is legit. No, I really appreciate that, LeBron, because there was a time when I was a young man at UCLA in this fraternity where obviously I stood out for so many ways. And who at 18 years old knows fully who they are quite yet? And I was just yeah, sure. You were a more fully formed human than I was then in the spring of 1990.
I still don't know who I am.
No, indeed. But I found myself just listening in on conversations as if I was the proverbial fly on the wall, and being astounded by the perspective and the experience of you all that was so different from mine. And I just would sometimes sit in our chapter meetings and go, wow, I didn't know anybody was living this experience. And we'll get into some more of that stuff, but and I do really, really, one thing I appreciate about the both of you is this wisdom that you carry with you of being true to yourself and who you are and understanding how the world works. And a lot of that has to do with your parents and then you figuring how to survive in the world and going, I live in a white world. I'm in America that has been dominated by white males professionally, scholastically, socially, and you two are fluent members. You are fluent members of not just surviving but thriving in those worlds. So I wholeheartedly appreciate you bringing that up and see it as being true. Now, let's stop the love fest.
Thank you. All right, Antonio.
About to get into this.
Throw us in the ocean.
I don't know. So the last time we spoke together, we had a conversation about racism, and the new definition that John came to was racism is detachment.
Yes, I will re-ask you the question that I asked in that conversation, because maybe that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I said, as a white dude, I have the freedom, maybe I can fly in and out of this conversation about race, about injustice, specifically towards black people in America. I can engage, oh yeah, let me be an ally, let me like a social media post, or let me go to a protest. And then I can leave and live my life and not feel an attachment to it until something dramatic like George Floyd being lynched and it being videotaped and seeing it, then everybody gets pulled in the conversation. But then after a while, white people, we tend to go on with our lives and not be part of that conversation. So my question to you all was, does that mean I am racist, or does that mean I am detached? And you both nod your head saying yes. And yes.
And yes.
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 Period.
Does that detachment mean I am racist? That was kind of the conversation we were having.
Right. And you also said that most white folk think about the word racist as hard R front porch, which I thought was eloquently put. I would say that most people of color don't necessarily need hard R front porch. I would say that racism looks like not paying attention. Racism looks like not participating. Racism looks like not acknowledging your privilege. Racism looks like I'm going to get mine, when the structures and systems of the United States have been built in order to perpetuate whiteness as the norm, right? I was listening to, I don't know, something. And they were talking about women entering the workforce after World War II or during World War II, right? And I always, in my head and in my classes, have to say white women entering the workforce, because as far as I understand the history of the United States, black women have been working for quite a while, right? Since the inception of the United States, since the colonies, since the British North American colonies, the enslavement of folks, right? 1619, shout out Nicole Hannah-Jones. Let's reframe the conversation. Black women have been working in these United States with the 1848 acquisition, conquering, theft of the southwestern part of the United States, right? California, Califas, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona. Latinas, Mexicans, have been working as a part of the workforce. But the conversation about women started working is white women started working, and not using that negates a history, negates a presence, negates a part that has conversation. If you want to talk about Chinese American women working, right, either as sex workers, forced sex workers, or as laundresses in California, because those were the only two things that were available to the few who were allowed to immigrate, right? And so coming back to that, is detachment a part of it? It's detachment. It's that idea of normalcy. It's that I can say American and you don't hear the white sort of subtly stuck in, but it is a part of it, so that everyone else is a hyphenated American. Everyone else is extra or not real or not a part of, right? So the detachment, the I don't have to be a part of this conversation, is in and of itself racism. Although the worst thing you can say to a white person is, "You're racist."
Which is where the conversation it basically gave us the impetus to make this episode one topic, because I feel a responsibility to move my white brothers and sisters a little out of neutral into a little bit more engagement. And so when we start with, you all are white supremacists if you voted for Trump, or you all are racist if you toe this particular party line, my concern is that we're losing the good people who are detached because they don't align themselves with the terms white supremacist or the terms racist. It just, to your point, the worst thing you can call a white person is racist. We just go, no, I not me. No, of course not. I am a good person, which usually means I haven't perpetuated anything negative on anyone deliberately. But what we're having this conversation for is, let's take a look at the detachment and say, is there some racism in there? And we're saying, yes, there is.
Yes, there
and
is.
I would like to hear more from the both of you on that subject, because
Yeah. I think part of that challenge for white people, since I'm one of the resident experts on my people, is the definition. Your perceived definition, in my perspective, is that racism is outside of whiteness, and that white people can choose to jump in and be racist or stay out. And then most people think I'm out because I'm not actively verb racist. But they don't understand that racism, like a definition I use, people say, well, LeBron, what is racism? Well, for a person of color, racism is the wind is always blowing in your face, regardless of what direction you're walking. Which means that the wind is always at every white person's back. So even if they have a bad day, the wind is still at their back. Even if I have a good day, the wind is still in my face. And so that wind and how it affects us is what people struggle to really understand about what it means, what racism is.
it's such a good analogy. I want you to speak more about it, because I can hear the voices of the neutral, detached white folk who I am very entrenched with, and sometimes who I am, going, you mean to tell me that I always have the wind at my back, that my life is easy, that's the defense mechanism.
Okay, gotcha.
So let's have that conversation. Let's unpack that, because I've dealt with this in my own family and in my own self.
Right.
So please say more.
And so thank you. Go ahead, Antonio.
I was just going to say, you brought up, you voted for Trump because you're racist, right? And that's not the actual statement. The statement is, you voted for Trump despite his racism. Yeah, I don't like the way he speaks about those people, but I like this. Yeah, I don't like his policies on immigration, but I like this. Yeah, he may be racist, but he also makes me feel good. I don't have to worry about it. I want to make America great again. I think America was great at some point. And so that conversation, to your point, is detachment. That conversation is passive. But whether you're passive or active, whether you're hard R front porch, Klan wearing whatnot, or you just don't think those people got what they deserve. This whole attack on DEI, right, is a smokescreen, because we're looking at people who, in his administration, got hired because they're white, got hired because they're male, got hired because they're his friends, firing people of color, firing white women who were actively qualified for the positions they were in to replace them with. If that's not a DEI hire, I don't know what is.
Okay, so here, if I may, and LeBron, I think you've got a little thought that's, you were on the hook there, so I want to go back to you also. I'm hearing the voices go, Trump's not a racist. He's just a this. Trump, I mean, he's not, again, because as a white person, I am conditioned to see racism as a dude on the front porch saying the N word with a hard R at the end, and he's got a shotgun, and he's, maybe married his cousin, and he's wearing overalls. Like, that's the image that we all go, I'm not that, I'm not that. So if this attack on DEI in the country is an indicator of the fact that what is American, what makes America great, is something that happened in the 50s-ish, which is white, which is very white. And so segregated and Jim Crow and this is where I want to connect the dots and draw a straight line from Trump appointing someone who's not qualified for real, but who, in his own words, is from central casting. Like, this guy's from central casting. When he says from central casting, they're saying he looks American. And what does that mean? He looks like Captain America, which is a white dude with a chiseled face, probably, a little muscular, military, and very masculine.
Yep.
So in a way, I am filling in the blanks that I needed to fill for myself to make those connections, because it takes some thought to go, wait, there's the racism. The racism is what's normal in America is anything that falls under the visual element of whiteness. Whatever whiteness is, that's normal, and everything else is other, hyphenated. And that was a big realization for me. And I'm going to tell you where it happened, but LeBron, I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, keep going. I'll follow it up. You're going good. I like where you're going.
Okay. There was a time, this is like with stumbling, even in my intro, we talk about like I'm still stumbling and seeing my entrenched racism, is Antonio, you and I were talking about our history with the fraternity, and we were retelling stories about, do you remember when we first met each other in the dorms, and we're like, man, did you see those guys step? Yeah, I was thinking of joining that fraternity. Me too. And so we went back to how you and I decided to join Phi Beta Sigma, and it was, we had our stories. And in that conversation, this is just a couple years ago, I was like, yeah, Tony, you know what? I just didn't want to pledge one of the normal fraternities, because when I was looking at the normal Oh, shit. Antonio, I heard it. I just called Sigma Chi, Phi Psi, SAE, the betas. I called those normal. And you literally like, I knew you'd see it. I knew you'd hear it. You were really patient with me. But in that, when I called the traditional fraternities, meaning predominantly white, normal.
Historically white.
Historically white. Yes, purposely white.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and yes. It was part of my language. What that showed was that in my subconscious, I have been conditioned to believe that's normal. And what we have, the three of us, the black fraternity, is abnormal. And that was a revelation for me. That was like scales falling from my eyes. Like, even in my language, I'm calling us the other thing. And so I put that to what's happening with DEI right now. Why? Maybe there's a lot of white people going like, why are people so freaking out about it? We're just, we're getting the best qualified candidate. No. What we're doing is we're getting back to normal, which
we're
is
restoring truth and sanity to American history.
Woo. Yeah.
Truth and insanity. Now, and John, to your point, because I think that's the key, is that definition. What does racism look like, and what is a white person's role in it? So America, the most important thing to America is symbolism. That is everything. So when you look at, say, not the Republican Party, because I was a registered Republican for 20 years. In fact, at UCLA, I joined the Young Republicans, and I took a lot of backlash because I took from Antonio. The first one, he gave me a whole lot of trash.
Welcome to We Confessed What We Confessed.
Yeah. And I was like, I have to join because I took a philosophy class that says you can't ridicule something you haven't been a part of. So I joined to figure out, is what people are really saying about Republicans being racist, is it really true? So I said, let me join and be a part and be in that experience and experience for myself. So I'm not into labels. So there's Democrats, there's Republicans. I roll Democrat personally. However, we're not experiencing Republicans right now. That's my problem. We're experiencing MAGA and racism. which is not the traditional Republican Party of conservatives and so forth. So it's this, the symbolism is important. So notice the big flags. The MAGA people have extra large flags, extra large Trump flags. Everyone's got a Ford F-150, Dodge Ram truck. Symbolism is important. So as long as the symbols remain intact, then white people feel comfortable. When Obama was elected, that shattered the symbol. The number one symbol of the leader of the free world is a black man with a black African name, and that lit the torch, Tiki, of what we're dealing with now. And
They
so-
cleaned out. They cleaned out Lowe's and Home Depot. Those
So,
torches.
so that's what the thing is as long as the symbols are there, all white people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
When you mess with their symbols, like when they took down the statues in the South and they took down the Confederate flag, we just thought, okay, that's, they lost the war, so you should take that down. But we don't understand the ramification of what that means to all white people, whether they realize it or not. That's their
But
history.
LeBron,
That's
it's,
their
it's
symbols.
heritage, not hate.
But it's heritage wrapped nicely in hate.
Y'all ever notice that when you're insecure about something, that it takes the tiniest little poke to get you to just freak out in response? And that's what what you're saying right now, LeBron, about the symbols being so important, is that if you really, really deeply knew that your cause was good and right, and you trusted and you had faith in your history and your lineage in the future, the symbols would really maybe bother you that they were taken away. But I really believe that, because I think innately there is an understanding beneath all this that this is all kind of a mythology. The American history, it's mythological. The founding fathers and so these symbols, when they're taken down, it's like there's this emptiness beneath it, and that's why the anger, the hatred. Don't touch my this, don't touch my flag and the anthem, and how dare you kneel, and that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Imagine if we got rid of Santa Claus. Could you imagine what would happen in this country? If they got rid of Santa Claus, it'd be over, dog. They'd be like, hey, the Russians are here.
This is another episode, but you mean capitalism and selling things and buying things is more important than democracy?
Oh, my groceries. There you go.
Okay.
How dare you?
Yes.
How dare
I
you?
said it's another episode. Different
You
question.
check this out. So we'll put this among the references. You already mentioned 1619 Project in the book. I just finished James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, and I figured I've been reading Coates, Ta-Nehisi Coates a lot. And I'm like, let me go back to the dude who was Coates before Coates.
Yes.
Page 101. And now this was written in 1962, so the language he uses, he calls black folks Negroes all the time, like that's in the book.
We've had
I
several
mean,
names.
this is 2025, and I call this black folk Negro. So
Okay, well,
we're good.
perfect. I don't. Anyway, page 101. I don't care how
You
deeply.
and you shouldn't.
That's right. And the next phase of that word will never come out of my mouth. And y'all, white people who are mad that you can't say the N word hard or not, please follow my example in this. These brothers might even give me permission in secret to say it, but they won't, and they never have, and I never will. All right, just anyway. Page 101. Here's James Baldwin. The American Negro has the great advantage of having never believed that collection of myths to which white Americans cling. And he goes on to talk about the myths. And
Wow.
this is a very big disconnect that I would like you all to talk about, because we are surprised that you all don't feel the same way about the symbols that we feel. Like, one of the things I've been afraid to say out loud is sometimes I get goosebumps during the national anthem. I do.
When Whitney Houston sings it,
She can sing Happy Birthday and we'll get goosebumps. But yes. And so, when you look up the word patriotism, it talks about a passion for a certain thing. Like it's emotional language. And a lot of this attachment to symbols is emotion. And what James Baldwin says is, black folks in America, we've never been attached to that mythology. And That understanding helps me realize, oh, y'all don't feel this way about these things that I feel. And it helps me see that there's this big disconnect, that we've been kind of caught up in the winds of this mythology. And a lot of what is happening now tearing down DEI is trying to, no, don't take our myths away. Don't take our myths of our greatness away. It's that insecurity.
So here's the part, right? Does my title say the historian? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
it does.
So if you think about, right, you want Baldwin to be Coates before Coates, then I want Douglas to be Baldwin before Baldwin. Baldwin said Douglas said in 1852, what to the American slave is the 4th of July? And I'm going to terribly butcher the most eloquent speaker, born enslaved, self-emancipated, and yet he said, it is a day which says to us that you are nothing but hypocrites, that your cheers and fireworks and bombast and symbols are simply there to show us how we are not a part of the American experience. And why he is important is because when the current holder of the office says that he's going to bring truth and sanity back to the history of the United States, he is perpetuating those myths. His only intent is to create a white populace ignorant of the things that have been done to keep them supreme. And so going all the way back to our conversation about detachment and racism, if you are detached, if you are not a part of excavating, explicating, understanding the history of the United States, then you are simply carrying along the water for those who want you to forget.
There it is. There it is.
Deep, deep, deep.
As we had that conversation, I went back and I am still struggling with defining racism in the modern era to make it palatable for people like me to embrace that's who we are. Okay? So you saying that connects with one of the definitions that I wrote down, which is silent partner. You might not be a racist, perpetrating negative things, or you might not even be promoting what you see is like, ooh, I don't like that the Naval Academy just banned Maya Angelou but kept Mein Kampf. I don't like that.
Ooh.
Right, like that's just one tiny example. If white people, if you're paying attention, that happened, okay? That happened. You could still read Hitler at the Naval Academy Library, but you can't read Maya Angelou. Now, thankfully, we can read whatever we want for now, as long as we have access to it. So that might bother you, but if you're not, to your point, Antonio, if you're not speaking up or doing something, you're a silent partner to racism. You're its silent partner. You're its venture capitalist. You're its private equity firm. You are allowing it, perpetuating it, helping. And I needed to realize that myself. That's one of the reasons why we're here, gentlemen, is that I had to have my own, what the hell am I doing about this moments.
Right.
Thank you for joining us. Still got questions? Other things you want to say? Hit us up at 3 for the Founders on Instagram or TikTok and let us know. Till the next time, Left on Founders. We out.